Back for another edition of In the Huddle. Carl Dukes put them up along with Brian Baldinger. Baldy's breakdowns, guys. You watch him on NFL Network. And of course, our man Jason Lockon4 is a part of this podcast as well. And we're here. It's playoff time. We've been waiting a long time to get to this point. We didn't know how this was going to look, which is why the end of the season was such a big deal. So, Baldy, before we get into the games, because that's what matters, right? Starting Saturday with Chargers, Texans, and Steelers, Ravens, which should be a hell of a game. Let's talk about the firings around the NFL. Black Monday happened as we record this podcast, guys, on Wednesday. Look, some of these were no-brainers, but now we have 6 jobs open in the National Football League. And let's just kind of start with New England, because that was the one we talked about where I felt like, hey, they're going to give him a chance to grow in this job in Gerard Mayo. We knew that New England was not talented, but yet Gerard Mayo ends up getting fired. That, to me, out of all of these, was probably the biggest surprise.
Well, look, when they hired Gerard, like he was a succession plan. I get it. But they didn't give him any chance at all. I mean, it's nobody thought that was a roster that could compete. And then after you start 1-4, and you turned it over to Drake May, and he showed promise through many of the games, we knew the team around him, including, and always the most important piece, Carl, the offensive line, was not good. I thought there was one starter amongst all the different permutations they used up front that looked like an NFL player to me. Not to mention who they're throwing to, what they're doing on defense. You want to trade away Matt Judon, fine. You think Keon White's ready to go, okay. But, I mean, it's ludicrous to think that anybody, Bill Belichick in his prime could have done a whole lot more with that roster than what Gerard did. So you may think, that they have another guy out there that's better, a better candidate, and you're not saying it, and maybe we'll find out who that is in the coming days or weeks, but it wasn't fair to Gerard. And who knows after that if he ever gets a second chance at this point.
Yeah, and we don't know, listen, people say things in organizations, oh, he was over his head, he wasn't ready. We hear all of these kinds of things. Until you're in there and you're doing it every day, no one really knows. But I did think that was sort of an unfair situation. But we also know that's the National Football League. Baldy, are you surprised that Brian Daboll was retained along with Joe Schoen?
Yes, I was, because you could say, because there's 2 camps here. Well, 2 years ago with Saquon and a pretty good play from the quarterback, they won a playoff game. All right. I saw a team that went from leading the league in takeaways a year ago with 31, dropping down to 15 this year after you changed defensive coordinators from Wink Martindale to Shane Vaughn. And then you go, okay, what players are you watching that are developing? They've been drafting these guys, and I haven't seen a development of Kayvon Thibodeau or a development of Evan Neal. That's an indictment on the general manager and the coach and the staff. And 3-14 in New York is ugly. I mean, that's a marquee franchise. It was their 100th year this year, Carl. Yeah. 100th year, and they put that product out there. The owner came out. Look, John Mara, we respect these owners, but he came out and said it was embarrassing. It's not good enough. Okay. Well, what did you see that you would lead to believe that they're on the right track?
Nothing.
I mean, the Eagles were playing their third-team quarterback.
That's right.
Okay. They were playing guys that had never played all year on Sunday, and they beat their starters. Like, that was an Eagles preseason roster that they put out there to play, and they couldn't beat the Eagles.
Yeah, I'm with you. That is, from one surprise, which Gerard gets fired, to Daboll and Shane being retained. That's another element of surprise. Let me ask you about what's going on with what the hell the Raiders are doing. Antonio Pierce and Baldy, here's the deal. We talk about consistency in this league. You talk about Big Red, and Harbaugh with the Ravens and Tomlin. Like, we know those are exceptional situations. But you can't continue to just change and change and change and think that you're going to eventually get to your goal. That's kind of what I see with Mark Davis and the Raiders. I'm not saying Antonio Pierce didn't deserve to be fired, but the fact that he did and you didn't stay the course after 1 year?
Well, not just that, but, they played 3 different quarterbacks, and none of
Right.
them are starters. They're all backup quarterbacks. And so you can go draft Brock Bowers and Jackson Powers Johnson, and, you can see some young youth, but I mean, you lose Max Crosby, you completely whiff on Tyree Wilson. Like, those aren't the result of any coaching from Antonio Pierce. Now, I've got to believe, and I don't know this, Carl, so but like, there is Tom Brady involved, and I think he's heavily involved. And maybe he's got access to Mike Vrabel, and maybe they think like that, or somebody else that he thinks offensively is the direction that they need to go. But, obviously Antonio wanted Jaden Daniels. He was with them at Arizona State. They missed on all 6 first quarterbacks, and nobody's winning in this league. And everybody is getting fired if your quarterback play isn't good enough. And that's the case with the Raiders right now. The quarterback play was dreadful. And so they made a decision to go with backups and Gardner Minshew and, Aiden O'Connell. That's fine. But, you get your head coach's, head job topped off because your quarterback play, and one of the reasons quarterback play isn't good enough, nobody's winning, with that guy under center right now.
I think as we talk about coaches fired, it's In the Huddle, guys. Follow us, In the Huddle Pod. Watch us live on YouTube. Tell your friends, subscribe. We talk nothing but ball on this podcast and nothing but the NFL. Baldy, before we get to the games, which again is what matters, and that's what we'll be, most concerned about this weekend as we get into Wild Card Weekend. I thought Doug Peterson, listen, he's a Super Bowl winning coach. But to your point about the quarterback situation, I thought Trevor Lawrence's inability to be on the field consistently got Doug Peterson fired.
Yeah. Well, or develop. I mean, he's regressed in each of the last 2 seasons. And so I think that's part of it. I mean, they kept the general manager. All right. The owners came out and said this is the best roster they've ever had. And, it was an awful performance. Now, Brian Thomas Jr. was awesome. Whoever's throwing him the ball. I mean, he was a legitimate first-round pick. He was the 4th receiver taken, and he looks like a star. But around him, I mean, there wasn't much to get excited about. And it's a tough job. It's a tough job right now. I don't think the roster is very good. I don't think the offensive line is complete. You traded away your starting left tackle, Cam Robinson, during the middle of the season. I don't know what message that was sending to everybody else in that locker room. Probably not a very good one. So, it's a job where you got to play two games a year, every year in London now. That's not easy on anybody, where you got to stay over there. You got to factor that in for your fan base. They've put a ton of – I've been down there to Jacksonville. They're putting a ton into the resources, the facility. That's all great, but until the quarterback starts playing like the number 1 pick, like Joe Burrow and some of the, Jaden Daniels and these other, highly drafted quarterbacks, I mean, they're going to struggle right now.
All right, Baldy, let's talk about some of these games. Carl Dukes, Brian Baldinger, again, Jason Lockon for part of this podcast, guys, as we start to break down the NFL playoffs. I think, Baldy, and let's start on Saturday, 4:30, Chargers, Texans. And by the way, if you're not paying attention, 3 teams from the AFC West are in the playoffs, okay?
I know, yeah.
Chiefs, right? Chargers, Denver. And the thing that I think we need to acknowledge is Chiefs are the Chiefs. Andy Reid's been great. We know that. Harbaugh comes in, makes the Chargers a playoff team. Sean Payton with a rookie quarterback is in the playoffs. So that division all of a sudden is getting a lot tougher. But I got to acknowledge that. But Baldy, this game to me with the Texans, first of all, I just don't like what I've seen with them here the last few weeks. We talk about momentum going into the playoffs. But the Chargers are first in points allowed in the NFL. They're only giving up 17 a game. Like, to me, they have the ability to limit what the Texans can do. How do you see this matchup?
Well, I think the last time the Chargers got beat, whereas at home by Tampa. Tampa ran against them that day, 233 yards.
Yep.
Bucky Irving had a big day, Rashad White. And since then, the Chargers have gone 3-0, and they have played outstanding football. The quarterback is, they've gotten healthy around him. I mean, J.K. Dobbins, Will Dissly, they're healthy. Defensively, that's been the biggest surprise is they actually tackle better now. Jesse Minter, the defense coordinator, has done a tremendous job with that group, and they're pretty healthy. And they've been playing largely two rookie corners, Cam Hart and Tarheeb Still. I mean, two rookie corners. But I think Derwin James is where he needs to be. I think if Houston is going to get on the winning ways, and look, you lose your number 2 receiver in Tank Dell, your number 4 receiver in Stephon Diggs. All right. Your offensive line commits a ton of penalties. You're constantly behind the chains. To me, if Houston's going to win this game, this got to be a Joe Mixon game. This got to be a Joe Mixon game where he gets 30 touches, Carl. He's setting the table. They're converting 3rd and shorts, 4th downs. They're scoring in the red zone. I saw Joe Mixon carry the ball 30 times in week 1 against the Indianapolis Colts. They won that game in a shootout. But I thought that's got to be, and this is not to knock on C.J. Stroud, but they're not going to be this aerial circus that we fell in love with last year, with Nico Collins and all that. So I feel like Joe Mixon was brought there for a reason, for games like this at home against a very good Chargers team, but you kind of want to keep that offense off the field right now, the way that they're getting some chunk yardage and to Ladd McConkey and we saw what, Johnston did last week, even what Herbie did running the ball. I feel like if the Texans are going to win this game, and I feel like they're the underdogs, then it's got to be a Joe Mixon game.
Mixon has over 1,000 yards, 11 touchdowns on the season. You're right. They've got to lean into him. And I feel like that also helps that offensive line because you're asking them to protect Stroud, 50 times in this game. That's a recipe for disaster. And we know Harbaugh, right? I mean, he's going to control the game. He's done a spectacular job. Look, we haven't even talked about Coach of the Year, but he's done an unbelievable job, Baldy.
You know what's interesting? Just, I've listened, you can't help but listen to these post-game winning speeches, right?
Sure.
I mean, they're all over social media, but the thing that just I continually see, and it's something that I don't know if a lot of coaches know how to even do it. He loves that quarterback up. Like, I feel like he's going to adopt him and make him his own son, and not that you have to kiss the quarterback's ass, but you have to make sure that this kid believes that you believe in him, that his confidence is the most important piece of the puzzle. Like his ability to do this to Justin Herbert's been around this league, but he's never played better than this. He's never made these type of throws and not turned the ball over and taken the team down the field when they need him to do it. His ability to instill confidence in that player, in Justin Herbert, is unlike anything else. And Derwin James, he's never played better than this. He is the Derwin James we always thought he was, but they're well led, and it's because the coach just knows how to identify those leaders and to put it in their hands and let them know that he has supreme confidence in them.
He does a great job of empowering guys, right?
Yes,
that's
the word.
I totally agree. And when you feel like he's behind you and it's your team and like there's just a different mentality. And Baldy, you've been around that where guys take that on. I'm with you. Like that's the secret sauce that most coaches don't have.
Well, here's the reason why it's the secret sauce and why it's so important is because of all the noise that's out there. I mean, these players, everybody's on their phone. I get blasted putting I think the Eagles are going to win the Super Bowl. I mean, I get blasted and you get blasted for anything we put out there.
Right.
We know the blowback is coming. And some of it is, it's just fans, but I get it. But, you got to, one way to block out the noise is to have your coach be the loudest voice in your ear, and that it sort of drowns out everything else. And his ability to do it is one of the reasons why he's won every place he's gone.
All right. Saturday night, I think it's going to be a dogfight.
All right.
Steelers are fighting to like get right. Everybody's talking about Tomlin and winning a playoff game. It's been 7-8 years, even though he continues to win. Another winning season for Tomlin. But I got to start with this guy that threw for 41-72, 41 touchdowns, and 4 picks. I just want you
We've
guys
never
to think.
seen it, Carl.
Baldy,
We've never seen it.
4 picks in a damn season?
Look, Carl, he just continues to improve. Todd Monken's been great for him. What Eric DeCosta has done to build the roster. I mean, they've thrown 17 touchdown passes to the 2 tight ends, Mark Andrews, Isaiah Likely. But when they signed Derrick Henry, I said there wasn't a better place for him to go. Like maybe he could have had a great season with the Cowboys, but not like he's having with Lamar. Like that duo, Lamar opens things up for Henry. Henry opens things up for Lamar. But the 41 touchdowns and 4 interceptions, we've never seen anything like it. Never. And so I know the MVP discussion is out there. Like he's MV3 to me. Like it's beyond the numbers. Yeah. And you can't say, well, Josh Allen's had a great year. Another great year. But he's not the MVP. Not the way Lamar has played. So here we have in this game, we've got the Ravens winning 4 in a row. We have the Steelers losing 4 in a row.
Right.
Like we've never seen a team limp into the playoffs quite like this before. You're supposed to be playing your best football in December. They've lost 4 in a row. Now, albeit 4 good teams, but still, they've scored in these 4 losses now, Carl. They've scored 6 touchdowns. Okay. And all of them are pretty long drives to their credit. But they're not getting short fields. They're not getting turnovers. They're not getting big play scores where you just put it up there, let them go 60 yards and go take a seat on the bench, and you got 7 points. It's a struggle. When you watch this team play, you can see the struggle. You can feel the struggle, how hard it is to get first downs, to put scoring drives together. That's not the case with Baltimore right now. Like they go up and down the field on you.
So going into the playoffs, and this is why I think they're, when we talk about getting to the Super Bowl, one, they're first in rushing yards. They're averaging about 190 a game, right? 187. So they can gouge you in the run game. You trust your quarterback if you have to put it on his back. They're giving you 30 points a game, which is always important when you go into the playoffs. You got to be able to score points.
Yep.
So you say, all right, so how the hell do the Steelers make this a game and win? And Baldy, to me, that's the question, right? Baltimore, we know all the good. What do the Steelers do to make this a game? And by the way, does this include Justin Fields getting back into some of these packages and maybe doing some things that we haven't seen him do over the last few weeks? Now, I know he was banged up, but he was asked yesterday about whether or not he was going to play, and he said, I don't know if I'll play more, but I'm ready. My guess is he probably will.
Well, they need another element that can create some explosive plays for him.
Yep.
Like I was there in Pittsburgh when they beat Baltimore back in week 11. They beat them 18-16. They got 3 takeaways that day. Nick Herbig got the ball out of Derrick Henry's hands. Deshaun Elliott falls on it. They got a couple from, Lamar, and we came away from that game going, oh, Lamar can't beat the Steelers. They got his number. I mean, all that stuff was true. Now the team's gone a different direction since week 11, but that's what they got to do. They probably need a big play, whether it's a conversion on 4th down and short, with Justin Fields, goal line type score instead of a field goal. They probably need a couple plays out of Justin, and they need their defense to be unbelievable. They need to play Steeler football, and that means TJ's got to show up. Cam Hayward's got to show up.
Yep.
Alex Highsmith. You go through the list of Patrick Queen probably wants to put one on the Ravens. Like they've got to show up and pop a few loose, get their fingers on a few balls. Like they've got to affect this game. If they go through this thing and don't take the ball away from the Ravens, they're not winning the game.
No doubt. Takeaways will be big. We're talking about the playoffs, guys. It's wild card weekend. Those are the 2 Saturday games. Then you get out of bed Sunday, and you've got 3 more to look forward to. Let's start with the Broncos heading to Buffalo, 1 o'clock. Now, look, we're not meteorologists, but this cold front that's rolling through and is going to hit the Northeast, and there's going to be snow and all kind of stuff that's happening Friday, Saturday, obviously is going to affect the games on Sunday, and especially with these outdoor stadiums. But as much as I love what I've seen with the Broncos, Baldy, I think this run comes to an end. You and I both know this is how difficult it is to go on the road and play Buffalo. How much should we give the Broncos an opportunity to go to Buffalo and win? You see it there, 8.5-point underdog. I don't know if they cover, but I do think Buffalo wins this game. They are 13-4. They've been great at home this season. Baldy, is this the end for the Broncos?
Yeah, I think it is. I mean, and it's not to knock what Sean Payton, Bo Nix, what that defense has done, Patrick Surtain, Zach Allen. I mean, they've had great years. You know, what they did to Kansas City last week. Now, to not even let the Miami Dolphins or Cincinnati Bengals just sniff the opportunity for a chance to get into the playoffs. I feel like if Kansas City somehow knocked Denver out last week, if Cincinnati went to Buffalo, I think you could say, okay, here's the team that can challenge because of the quarterback, because of the receivers, because of their playoff experience. I thought that would be a tough matchup. I don't see it right now. The one thing in watching Buffalo all year, I mean, their offensive line, coached by Aaron Cromer, they've started all their guys from Deion Dawkins to Spencer Brown. I mean, Osiris Torrance. All five guys started together. They can run it when they got to run it. James Cook, the ability to do that along with Josh Allen. For Josh Allen, he probably is. I don't think his performance in this playoff game is going to have anything to do with the playoff chatter or the MVP chatter that's out there.
Sure.
But I'm sure he wants to, he wants to advance. He knows what's out there and what's missing to this Buffalo franchise, which is a Super Bowl championship. They've got to take care of business wild card weekend. And so I think this is a very focused team, well-coached team, and I think you'll get the best out of Josh Allen, which is just too much for what Denver has right now. They're going to have a hard time, I think, sustaining offense against this defense. Bo Nix might play like he did last week where he throws for the 4 touchdowns. I don't see that happening on Sunday against Buffalo.
Yeah, and by the way, Cook, how big is Cook in this game, do you think, for Buffalo?
Again, it depends on, if the wind is going sideways and the snow's coming down, I mean, you got to put your snowshoes on. And so he's capable of doing it. His feet are amazing. They have their runs that they know how to develop. I think he's a big part of their offense, period. And so, he's important, really important.
Yeah, I think so too. And again, everything still goes through Kansas City. So we know whether it's the Ravens, Steelers, it doesn't matter. Buffalo, it's still got to go through Kansas City, and they get a chance to get healthy. They're not playing this weekend, but that's the thing that I think people need to understand. As we get to, their starters will have had it 3 weeks, maybe 4, depending on how much they've done at practice and what Andy Reid has asked those guys.
Well, I feel like this whole offense turned around as soon as they moved Joe Thuney, their Pro Bowl left guard, out to left tackle.
Agreed.
Like, he's nailed that position down. Watch him go up against, guys like, Flash Garrett. Like, he's handled everybody out there.
Let me ask you though, what was going on with the O-line? Because they were having issues earlier in the season, right? Did they just not have the guy and then just said, screw it, we're going to put our best guy over there?
Well, they tried Wanye Morris. They went out and got DJ, a backup left tackle. They played the rookie left tackle for BYU out there.
He struggled.
And they not only weren't they very good, but they committed a ton of penalties too. And they were constantly going backwards because of those penalties. And so finally they made the switch of Thuney, who played tackle, out of North Carolina State, I believe, when he was in college. And he looked like a guard playing tackle. I've had to do that myself. But at the same time, he just knows how to play. And so they've gotten a lot better up front. And they've also gotten healthy. Pacheco's back. Their whole receiving core is healthy. Hollywood Brown. And then defensively, they've got Charles Omenihu back, who was, coming back from an ACL tear in the AFC Championship game a year ago in Baltimore. He makes a difference. Chris Jones will be healthy. They're going to get Jalen Watson back at corner. They're going to be full go.
Yeah, and we're talking about the Chiefs, guys. As we said, everything goes through Kansas City. We're talking about their O-line and their makeup, but they get to sit and watch Buffalo at home against Denver. Saturday, 4:30. Are you concerned about the Eagles? Green Bay travels to Philly. We know Jalen had the concussion, but they're just so loaded. I mean, I have a hard time unless, Baldy, Sirianni screws this up.
Well, I mean, I was there in Sao Paulo week 1 when the Eagles beat the Packers that day. And on that day, you kind of said, boy, Saquon's going to have some success. Now, I didn't know 2,000 yards success, but he had 3 touchdowns in the game. One of them was a passing touchdown, got matched up against a linebacker. And then they could have had 4. They kind of took the air out of the ball in the final minute of the game. They could have scored another one. But, regardless, A.J. Brown beat Jair Alexander on the second play of the third quarter, blew the game open a little bit. The only concern I have right now is Jalen got hurt week 16 against Washington, has not played since.
Right.
Today's Wednesday. We're taping this on Wednesday. I expect him to be this is their big practice day. It's 20 degrees. I'm sure they'll be indoors today. But I'm pretty sure Jalen gets back into the lineup today and starts getting back. And we just got to see how much rust there is, if there is any at all, and if he gets the timing back in both the run and passing game right now. That's the only concern I have. Like, I don't think Green Bay's defense is good enough to stop this offense and to slow it down, whether they want to run it, protect, and throw it. I don't think they're good enough. They weren't in Sao Paulo. I don't think they are now. And then you will see. Like, I don't think losing Christian Watson is the end of the world for Green Bay's offense. But at the same time, there's just a trickle-down effect. You just have one less guy that you can make a play with down the field. And it's not to knock that Romeo Doubs can't, or Jaden Reed or Dontavius Wicks, or like, they still have enough. But there's a little bit of a knockdown there.
Is this a Jacobs game? How much do you rely on Jacobs?
He had a good game against the Eagles. I think he had like 87 yards in that game in Brazil. Like, he's capable of doing some damage. But I feel like this Eagles defense from that time in Brazil to now has really found their stride with Vic Fangio. And they're about as good as anybody out there in the postseason right now. So he might pop a few runs, but I don't think it's going to be anything that is going to make a huge difference in this game.
All right. As we go through these games, guys, again, follow us, follow Baldy, check out his breakdowns. You're going to be at in Hawaii for the Hula Bowl?
No, I wish they've moved it to Orlando because of the stadium issues. So yeah, we're heading to Orlando here today.
All right.
When we finish this.
But you're already doing breakdowns of guys that are going to be playing in that. Go check those out, guys. I know it's crazy, but listen, half the NFL has started their offseason. So a lot of these teams are already doing the work and starting to get ready. We know what the picks are going to look like now, at least, for the non-playoff teams. So there's a lot going on there. Baldy, last game of the night. To me, this is my special.
Yeah.
Because I think Washington can get Tampa Bay on Saturday night. I think Jaden Daniels can put that team on his back and go down there and match Baker Mayfield. Now, I know, I get it. Defensively, Tampa is going to bring the house, right? They're going to come after him. But this is only a 3-point game as far as, Tampa being favored at home. I even like the over. I think there's going to be points scored in this game because both can score. With that said, to me, this is the upset. If I was going to pick one, that's where I'm at. But Baker Mayfield, man, Baldy, he's been unbelievable.
Well, he's one of 10 quarterbacks in the history of the game to throw for over 4,500 yards and over 40 touchdowns. I mean, it's just unbelievable what Liam Cohen, he's a big part of it. What the offensive line, you got to look at what they did in the draft with Jalen McMillan and Bucky Irving and Graham Barton, those 3 rookies. I mean, that makes your draft right there. The couple of things, Carl, these teams played week 1. The Bucs had their way with them. It's funny, I went back and rewatched the game. And, if Todd Bowles thinks he's getting you with his pressures, they never stop coming.
They
You know,
don't.
when the game was 37-14 and 2 minutes to go, he was still bringing overload pressures at Jaden Daniels. Now, to Jaden's credit, like he didn't flinch. He made a lot of good throws in the game. You know, and if you play man coverage behind these blitzes, I mean, the guy ran for 900 yards, you know, and averaged 6 yards a carry. He is an incredible. So you have to be careful because I just watched him last week against Dallas when he did play. Dallas brought the house on a third down. He went for 17 yards right up the middle. Like like his ability just to see those receivers and feel the rush is unique. So and if you look at so he's going to see the blitz. It's going to happen. We'll see how he handles it. He's got a deep threat in Terry McLaurin. He's had an unbelievable season.
He
The
has.
history of the Washington franchise, 13 touchdown catches. That's the most. Tampa's really beat up in the secondary. You know, whether it's Winfield or Jamel Dean or Etienne, like they're really banged up back there. I think there's some things that they can take advantage of. I'm with you. I think this is the crown jewel of the Sunday games right now. This game's Sunday night.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a fun game to watch. And by the way, we have to acknowledge this. Mike Evans is pretty damn good. 11 straight years of 1,000 yards. Not one quarterback, multiple quarterbacks. Some of those guys, journeymen. He played with one legitimate Super Hall of Famer and Tom
Yep.
Brady, and that was only for a couple of seasons. But yet he continues to produce. I thought it was a great feel-good moment, Baldy, when he got that ball on Sunday and his teammates are all around him, and it just you realize what he
Well,
means to that team.
you know, it does, and he is a tremendous person. Like he's been their Man of the Year candidate a number of times. You go talk to Mike Evans, you're talking to a grown man, a real adult.
Right.
You know, so he has that. But you know, the thing that couple things. One, you can tell how much he loves the game, and you know, in order to, Jerry Rice, the great Jerry Rice. Obviously, he never did it 11 straight years from his rookie year. He didn't have 1,000 yards his first year.
Right.
He went on to his Hall of Fame career. But the thing is, in order to do that, you've got to stay healthy. You got to take care of yourself. You know, you can't be a me guy and be one of these guys that sulks in the corner when, I can't even tell you the number of quarterbacks that have thrown in passes over the years when they've missed them, not paid, whatever. So he's been mature beyond belief, consistent performer and healthy. But they had that moment in that game, and that was cool to see. But also, Washington beat Dallas in the final play, and it was a touchdown of Marcus Mariota to Terry McLaurin.
Yeah.
And they equally had this. Both these teams have rallied. You could feel the chemistry on both teams. And one of the reasons why I think this game is going to be so much fun. DQ has done an unbelievable job. And Cliff Kingsbury, they couldn't have been happier to beat Dallas. It didn't change their position or anything, but
Right.
they beat Dallas.
Right.
And that was, you can see the whole team, 12 wins for this Washington franchise and where they have come from. So, and I remember real quick talking to Todd Bowles back in training camp. And I told Todd, I go, for the first time in your career, in any place you've been, I feel like you've got coaching stability, and not like you could have made changes after, Tom Brady left or whatever. They stayed the course. And I said, you got a good team, Todd. Like I thought this team was going to be good, not because of Baker. I just thought they've got veterans where you need veterans, Levante David, Mike Evans, Vita Vea. They've got and then they got this insurgence of youth, like they were bragging about Jalen McMillan early in training camp. The kid had 8 touchdown catches this year, after, Chris Godwin got hurt. And then this emergence of Bucky Irving is unbelievable. And then they were the worst running football team in the league last year. They finished number 4 this year. Like they rebuilt their offensive line. They committed to the run. Todd's done a great job of hiring coordinators.
Yep.
You think Dave Canales last year, Liam Cohen this year.
Yep.
Like Todd's done an unbelievable job in his role.
Yeah, I agree. And I'll say this about Mike Williams or Mike Evans, should I say. knew him in his days at Texas A&M. To be quite honest with you, he made Johnny Manziel. I mean, Johnny Manziel would joe a lot of balls up, and Mike would just go make plays. But to your point, here's the thing, and I would say to any young wide receiver coming into the league, go look at how he's handled his business. No contract negotiations in the public. He's never quit on his team. Tyreek. He's never put stuff out there about his quarterback. Like, everything has been handled the right way. And Tampa has taken care of him accordingly. But, like, this is how you handle your business. And then go perform on Sunday, right? Dude, I can't say enough about that guy because I think you're right. I love him as a person. He's tremendous. But just as a player, he just shows up, and he's never complained. Blaine Gabbert was his quarterback for a while. I mean, like, we could go down the list of guys, right? Jameis Winston threw 30 interceptions one year playing there. He didn't complain. He just kept playing. So congratulations to Mike. All right, let's talk about this last game before we get out of here. It's in the huddle, guys. We're talking about the wild card weekend. We're going to take it all in. We come back. We got divisional round. We'll see what this looks like. But Minnesota got last week. And I will say, I thought that was their worst game. Now, give credit again. I mean, did I think that their offense would look so inept? No. But they won't look that bad against the Rams come Monday night, right?
Well, so a couple things. One, the defense showed up. I mean, Brian Flores' defense led the league in interceptions. They got 2 interceptions from Jared Goff. They made a ton of splash plays. Negative plays, sacks. They pressured Goff. The offense didn't do their job. They constantly got him good field position. They couldn't score a touchdown. And for whatever reason, Sam Darnold was off. Like, he didn't see things. He missed receivers that were open. He missed, like, Kevin O'Connell can coach. Like, he part of coaching is understanding predictability of coverages. He had the right plays on against the predicted coverages. And Sam didn't make the plays. It's cause for concern. It really is, because that was a playoff game in a lot of ways. You could have taken this weekend off. And to have your quarterback who played great all year show up like that. I mean, every fan, you can't jump off the bandwagon, but you have to see this thing. He can't do that this week to this Rams team. This Rams team is going to score. They're just that good and talented, and no matter what Flores is, they're going to make some plays. Stafford, if you protect him, is going to hang in there and make these throws. Like, the guy is an incredible player. So, the offense of Minnesota with Justin Jefferson had 3 catches for 50 yards. Like, they put Amik Robertson on him, who's like, I love Amik. You want him on your team. He shouldn't be able to shut down Justin Jefferson. The quarterback's got to get him the ball.
Yeah. The Rams, look, we knew once healthy they would be a problem, and they are now. And so, the crazy thing is, obviously, Rams are a 1-point underdog, 1.5. I think they're right about this. I think this is a close game. I think this is a field goal game. I just do, Baldy. And partly due to the fact that the Rams can score. Puka, they can score. And so, this is going to be a fun game as well on Monday night. I really believe that. Yeah, go ahead.
I'm really interested. This Kyren Williams is an unbelievable player.
Oh,
he is just as tough as they come. Both backs, Aaron Jones, Kyren Williams. Like, Aaron Jones' blitz pickup is second to none in this business. Kyren could do it all.
Baldy,
he's a workhorse.
1,200 yards, Baldy, and nobody's even talking about it.
And touchdowns to go with it. He is an unbelievable player.
Yeah.
I mean, it's interesting about running backs, because there is this resurgence, obviously, through free agency. But both Aaron Jones and Kyren Williams were 5th-round draft picks. And here they are. Like, they're really, really important pieces to both offenses. And both of them are workhorse back. You can feed them. You can throw it to them. You can screen it to them. They're so important to their offenses. I love both players a great deal. I have tremendous respect for both of them, how they go about their business and how tough they are. So like, it's just one component to the game I'm looking at. I think Flores has done an unbelievable job with his defensive line, whether it's Jonathan Grenard, Andrew Van Ginkel. We saw the play from Van Ginkel on Sunday night. had his hands on the ball. He could have had a third pick six. Might have changed the game that day. You know, they're really talented, and these young kids with the Rams, Jared Verse, you know, Braden Fisk, Kobe Turner, they're the future. They're not Aaron Donald good, but they're the future in Los Angeles.
One last thing. Teacher, student, Kevin, Sean.
Yes.
Any
good.
Yeah, any effect there? Any effect?
Well, Kevin's done his own thing in Minnesota. It's different than Sean, but there is that sense that, you know, that teacher, there is that component to it. You know, I raised you, I showed you.
Yes.
Let me show you how it's done. There is that component to it.
We're going to see. It's going to be a lot of fun. NFL playoffs are here. Cannot wait. And we are diving in all week about what's going on, guys. Make sure you're here. Subscribe, like us so you don't miss an episode. Jason's going to join us next time we get together, and we'll be talking about all the things that went down over the weekend. It's going to be fun, Baldy. Hey, enjoy Orlando.
Yeah.
And we'll talk to you.
Out of the Northeast cold here, Carl.
Hey, I hear you, man. There's nothing wrong with that. Enjoy. Thank you guys for being here. It's In the Huddle.